You are what you eat is a frequently quoted piece of wisdom, so it is not surprising that a large number of scandals have startled consumers in recent years. From pesticides and other toxic residues in food to horse meat in lasagna, right up to mad cow disease BSE. Is there now another one coming with the approved officially insects in food? The following documentary shows the frightening risks and financial interests in this insect business.
In January 2023, the EU approved the addition of insects in food, with the house cricket and the larvae of the grain mold beetle, also known as buffalo worms. This led to an outcry from many concerned consumers on social media. Mealworms and migratory locusts have already been allowed in various forms of processing in a variety of foods since 2021, including bread, cereals, soups, pastas, snacks, chocolate, etc. The mainstream media are trying, again of course with reference to experts, to make these creepy crawlies, which are rather disgusting for Europeans, palatable to us. As is so often the case, climate protection and the alleged food security of a growing world population are used as arguments. Interestingly enough, this is the same media that a few years ago was warning us urgently about the risks of insects in food. A sudden change of mind reminiscent of the 180-degree turn of the media regarding corona. In January 2020, those who considered corona dangerous were still defamed. From February onwards, all those who considered it to be just a flu. Reason enough to take a closer look at what is behind this current insect hype and which possible motives are not mentioned to the public.
First, the EU regulations.
As you would expect, there is also an EU regulation for insect admixtures. This specifies which insect ingredients may be used, how they may be processed, and in what quantities and for what purposes. The EU also refers to the information and studies provided by the manufacturer, which of course are subject to the property rights and data protection of the manufacturer. This reminds once again of the approval of the corona vaccines. According to these EU regulations, cereal bars, for example, may contain 25% and whey powder 35% of cereal mold beetle larvae powder. Meat analogues, which most consumers assume are not of animal origin, may even contain up to 40% cereal mold beetle paste and up to 80% frozen migratory locust. If the consumer does not want to fall for this deceptive packaging, there's nothing left to do but to meticulously read the list of ingredients for each product. If one of the following terms appear there, insects ingredients are included: Locusta migratoria, migratory locust; Asceta domesticus, domestic cricket; Tenebrio molitor, flower beetle; Alphitobius diaperenus, grain mold beetle; the colorant carmine E120, which is obtained from dried female scale insects, and the coating agent shellac E904, have been common in our foods for some time and are frequently found in the list of ingredients. This comes from the excretions of lacquer scale insects, which were also used in the past to make gramophone records. Other insects for admixture in the diet are planned, but are currently still in the approval process, such as the male honeybee larvae and the black soldier fly larvae.
Second, labeling fraud on the benefits.
Insects, for example, are touted in the health section of the German Tagesschau Daily News with reference to the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO as a highly nutritious and healthy food source with a high content of protein, vitamins, unsaturated fatty acids, fiber and minerals. In addition, the overview table of the Tagesschau on Instagram shows significantly higher nutritional values of crickets compared to those of pork, beef and chicken, with a small flaw. There, the values of freeze-dried crickets were compared with meat. If you look directly at the FAO, the ratio looks quite different. There, crickets are also given in the correct comparison value as fresh weight with only 8 to maximum 25 grams of protein per 100 grams, so only 1/8 to maximum 1/3 of that which the Daily News wanted to suggest the advantage over meat. Insect products in European households solve neither the food crisis in Africa nor the problems of our factory farming. Such statements are more likely to correspond to the wishful thinking of ideologues or the pen of marketing strategists. Africans cannot afford European insect products, and the share of African agriculture products for the European feed industry is negligible. This will not relieve the food situation in Africa. On the contrary, it is to be feared that through the increased consumption of insect protein in the EU, the resulting surplus meat products will be additionally exported to Africa. This will put even more pressure on the small farmers there and further worsen their economic situation. Moreover, the insects are not captured in nature but bred in special farms. A 16,000 square meter insect facility is currently being built in France for the black soldier fly, which has previously only been permitted as animal feed. This insect factory, which will be more than 2 soccer fields in size, will be fed with up to 70,000 metric tons of organic waste per year. This is pure factory farming, with all the corresponding problems and risks, and without any regulations or requirements, since the European Animal Welfare Directive 98/58/EC does not apply to the keeping of invertebrates. Also, the claim by the Süddeutsche Zeitung that the voracious appetite of the larvae can be useful for humans in waste disposal when the maggots gorge themselves on manure, dung, or vegetable residues is as unappetizing as it is false. In the EU, farmed insects are considered livestock, and thus also the corresponding feed regulations, according to which animal byproducts may not be fed. The reason for this is the earlier crisis in connection with feed, as with mad cow disease, BSE. No one should get false hopes. Many insects are bred in Asia under the hygiene standards that are common there. And in the EU, there are voices calling for a change in the feed regulation so that the insects can also be fed catering waste, fecal matter, and sewage sludge. Or perhaps also old polystyrene to be disposed of, which mealworms eat. As is so often the case, the later consequences for the consumer are unclear.
Third, health risks.
Due to the almost uncontrollable hygienic conditions during husbandry, there is a risk of pathogens or parasites being transmitted to humans. From mealworms, for example, Hymenolepsis nana and Hymenolepsis diminuta, 2 species of dwarf tapeworms, are known. Recent studies show that some bacteria in insects consumed in Thailand are pathogenic to humans, such as Vibrio, Staphylococcus, and Clostridium, and not only in the raw state, but also in processed insect products. The abundant chitin in insect carapaces can also trigger allergies. For people who are allergic to crustaceans, house dust mites, and mollusks, there are particular risks due to so-called cross allergies. The symptoms range from itching to allergic shock and can also lead to death. In 18% of the people who died of anaphylactic shock in China, insects as food were the cause. Furthermore, chitin can lead to immunological and inflammatory reactions and is associated with the development of chronic diseases and Alzheimer's disease. This is confirmed by the elevated chitin levels found in Alzheimer patients. The very fat-rich insect larvae are also an ideal storehouse of pollutants, both for residues of sprays such as pesticides and fungicides, as well as environmental toxins and heavy metals. Depending on the type of insect, studies have detected greater or lesser amount of cadmium, lead, mercury, and arsenic. At the latest, when animal waste is fed to the insects, there is another risk when they are eaten, prions. These are abnormal proteins that can cause diseases such as bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, in cattle, and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans, and became known through the mad cow scandal. After the experiences with the, according to experts, supposedly side effect-free corona vaccinations, it should reassure few of the well-informed people that researchers currently assume that insects are not capable of forming prions. They do not know for sure, and certainly not what the risks are for the end consumer. One cannot help but think that politicians are once again putting the health of the public at risk and are well aware of it. As one of the paragraphs in the cereal mold beetle approval suggests, food supplements containing larvae of Alphitobius diaperinus in powder form should not be consumed by persons under 18 years of age, and therefore a labeling requirement should be provided to properly inform consumers about this.
Fourth, follow the money.
One company has been given exclusive rights to supply the insects for 5 years at a time. Where is the otherwise so much touted free market and competition? It is conspicuous that the insect companies were mostly founded only a few years ago, but investors have already invested several €100 million in them.